Rick, I want to go to you on this issue first, guys. I think this is important for people to understand. You had two whistleblowers yesterday, or the day before, and you had both IRS, both long-term supervisors, good careers, long careers with the IRS. One of the individuals said that they had laid out, and they're both in the criminal division, they had laid out a comprehensive tax fraud case with felonies, which was what's missing in the Biden indictment. And both of them were stymied by, they say, the U.S. Attorney's Office, which is the Department of Justice. First of all, let's talk about these whistleblowers, because this is an important, it dovetails in with our government affairs practice, our government oversight practice, our FOIA litigation. But these whistleblowers, first of all, we have to say this, and you know it because you've worked with these people. These are brave people because they're putting their entire careers, literally, folks, I'm looking at the end game here, trying to figure out how we help them long term. They're putting their entire careers on the line, or they already have.
Oh, there's no question. And I think for one of those individuals, he's a Democrat, and he's probably going to have no more promotions. This is a career-ending moment. But, you know, he's got to live with himself. He knows the truth. He's standing up for the truth. And look, I couldn't be more proud to be working with ACLJ, because we are the ones who dig deep on the legal cases and look at these whistleblowers to be able to say, hey, what is the legal truth here, and how do they get their voices heard, and how do we challenge the big regime government? So thank God we have these incredible lawyers at the ACLJ. I'm ecstatic to be a part of this, and you don't get this in any other organization. So keep up the good work.
You know, we're working with friends of ours, and Empowerment is the name of their organization. These are a couple of lawyers that came off the Hill with a lot of experience on issues, by the way, of whistleblowers and oversight. One worked for Senator Grassley. I mean, I think they both actually had worked for Senator Grassley at some point. They raised a really interesting question. We were on a conference call today talking about this, because there's a lot of cases here, Rick. Many of them have nothing to do with Hunter Biden, but they're atrocious, including cases involving child sex trafficking and a whistleblower FBI agent who's also a lawyer. I'm not going to go into the details on this. And they blew off the case because of political connections. And again, this had nothing to do with Hunter Biden. It's just, this is outrageous, but these people are speaking out. But there is a sense right now, and we're taking your calls on this, folks, at 800-684-3110. If you go to the Donald Trump side of this, right, you look at it right now, you've got a New York indictment, which I think is going to get booted out on appeal, but it's still a case. You've got the Mar-a-Lago case, which they, miraculously bring against Trump. They don't bring against Biden, who's got the same issues legally. Then you have, and this is also, we could have today, they could be filing another indictment in D.C. on the January 6 issues. And then there is, of course, the Georgia issue, which may well be, and this one is going to be some state RICO claim that no one's going to understand when it comes out, in my view. But you can't ignore the fact that the deep state, and not so deep, I mean, you're scratching the surface here. This government, this administration is trying to take this guy. Folks, you may like Donald Trump, you may not like Donald Trump, but let me tell you what you don't want. You don't want political enemies going after the other political party, especially the guy that's leading it just isn't right. It's not right if he was third in the polls either. But the intensity of this has picked up dramatically, I would say, in the last 30 days.
Look, the Washington, D.C. crowd is absolutely adamant that they don't want Donald Trump coming back and trying to reform them. They saw what he did before. He challenged everything about them. And so they're striking back. But I think something has happened, Jay. I think they've overplayed their hand. Outside of Washington, D.C., when you talk to normal people, common sense tells normal people that this is way too much, that they've gone after him in every possible way. They're dredging up everything. I think that there's one thing that we can say, though. This is the most scrutinized man in the history of the world, and they don't got anything. They literally are coming up empty time after time. They're stretching the law. They're manipulating the law. They're weaponizing the law. And people see it. Common sense outside of Washington, D.C. tells you they don't want this guy coming back to Washington for some reason. And the American public is saying, what is that reason? Maybe I need to get behind him. I know people that don't even love Donald Trump that are saying, well, now's the time to support Donald Trump. I'm going to send him a little money.
We've seen the numbers rise. I mean, that's just
Yes.
pure fact right now. You've seen the numbers rise for President Trump, and I think that that is an interesting indication of where the American people are, because I don't know if anyone really thought that. I mean, people did. But the media certainly didn't think that these kind of charges, if you will, would actually kind of backfire on them. What that also shows is a fundamental misunderstanding of who the conservative voter is.
Yes.
And they think that this is going to do something
100%.
to deter people. The problem is we've all been kind of told the last few years, this is what's going to happen. And guess what? Now it's happening.
Yep.
So who do you start believing? The main thing you got to focus on and look at, though, is to make sure our people who are listening to this broadcast don't see all this stuff happening and just get deterred to the point where they go, it's not even worth me voting. It's not even worth me doing it because I feel like I'm losing every time.
Yeah, let me tell you why it is worth voting, and let me tell you why this is important. I'll get Rick's comment on this too. Let me tell you what I think this thing in D.C. is. The Washington case involving, quote, January 6th, which is going to be some kind of, it looks like, based on the letter that was sent to the president, what people are saying, it's going to be some kind of interference with congressional proceedings, which raises huge First Amendment issues. I mean, gigantic First Amendment issues. So we have the first president in American history that utilized social media, because it really came into being in this kind of level in the last 10 years. So he uses social media, Rick. He's the president of the United States when he was tweeting and talking. He has a First Amendment right to do this. And what I want people to understand is, if you think that they do it to him, that they can't do it to you, guess again. And that's why when these issues mature, and I'm sure the lawyers are looking, I mean, I know how I would defend this case. In Washington, I'd be very aggressive on free speech, First Amendment, and this idea, if they try to do this like conspiracy issue, conspiracy to what? Engage in First Amendment activity? You don't get to do that. I think that's where some of this problem. Now, I haven't seen the indictment, I haven't seen the evidence, but from what I'm hearing, that's what I'm thinking.
Look, I think every conservative understands that the media's against them. They read their local newspaper, they see the local news, and they just are perplexed that we have a media system that is only about one side. And so Republicans totally understand that. I think what the challenge is for independents. We need to be able to educate independents to say, look, if they're coming after Donald Trump and they're shutting him off social media, they're going to do it to you. And this is a regime that is really interested in working with big tech and big universities and big media to shut down dissenting information. And so that's, I think, the big challenge. But make no mistake, I'll say this again, first and second generation Americans are the most pro-Trump, pro-conservative people right now, because they have seen totalitarianism. They've seen what it's like to have a media that completely controls the narrative, and they're the canaries in the coal mine telling all of us, wake up, America, this is coming to a town near you.
Rick, we appreciate it. Again, folks, support the work of the American Center for Law and Justice.